So this is legislative branch notes continued. So here we go. Now we've been talking about our United States government. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit now about Florida's government and how it runs, how it's similar to our national government, and how it might be a little bit different than our national government as well. Okay, so we all know that our capital is up in Tallahassee, Florida. Or if you don't know that, you should, but I'm sure that you all do. And currently, the person in charge, like Trump is in charge of the United States, well, Governor Ron DeSantis is in charge of Florida. He is our current governor, and there he is with his wife and his children. Okay, so on your note sheet, and this is what you should be looking at right now. This is the page we're on, right? It says Florida legislature, Tallahassee, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He is a Republican. Three things you need to write about him, and I've kind of highlighted these here in yellow. Okay, the first is after graduating from Yale University and Harvard Law School, DeSantis served as officer and attorney in the Judge Advocate General Court, U.S. Navy. Okay, so that's the first thing. What's there in yellow? Um, from 2013 to 2018, he served as a House of Representative for Florida in the 6th District. Now, that's not our district, right? Everybody remembers that. We are in the 8th District, okay? But he was a senator, a representative, a congressman during those years. DeSantis ran for Florida's Senate, okay, in 2016. But he ended his campaign when Senator Marco Rubio announced that he would seek re-election. On the last video, I talked a little bit about how Marco Rubio was trying to get the Republican nomination in 2016 for presidency, and he was pretty sure he was going to win his home state of Florida. But unfortunately, he did not. He actually only won Miami-Dade county that he actually was from. And so Trump took Florida. So he said, you know what? If I can't win my home state, I might as well drop out of the race. All right. So he said, I'm going to go ahead and run for senator again. So that was Marco Rubio. So then DeSantis said, well, I'll step down and let you run for senator again if that's what you want to do. Okay. All right. So here we are. You can see here when he ran against this gentleman right here. Okay. And the votes were very close, 49% to 50%. But he was announced the winner, and so he is currently our governor. Former governors, about 75% of incumbent governors win re-election. Incumbent, if you remember, means that you currently hold that office. Okay. So if they decide to run again, 75% of them win. Reasons that they might not win or get defeated: poor performance, scandals, corruption, personal weakness, and poor campaigning skills are some of the reasons they don't win. And these are just some of our former governors there. Okay, Florida governor term. One component of a governor's influence is the length of time he or she can serve in office. Most states have term limits for governors. Okay, so each state, that tells you right there, each state gets to set their term limits for their governor. In Florida, though, there is no lifetime limit. You can serve as many terms as you want, but, and this is what you need to write for Florida governor term, no lifetime limit, but a governor who's been elected to 2 consecutive terms must be out of office for at least one election cycle. So you could be governor, run, be reelected, be governor again. All right. Then you have to step out of office for at least one term. And then if you want to run for governor again, you can serve 2 terms, step out, go back, serve another 2 terms, as long as the people are still reelecting you. All right, so the next 2 sections, we're going to look at our Florida legislature. Okay, so we have a Senate in Florida, and we have a House of Representatives in Florida. Okay, just like our United States government has a Senate and a House. All right, we have 2 chambers also here in Florida. So our Florida State House of Representatives, okay, there are 120 members as opposed to 435 in the United States. But in Florida, we have 120 House of Representatives. They must be 21 years old. They must be a Florida resident for at least 2 years. They have a 2-year term, can only be elected 4 times. Okay, so 8 years is the max they can serve, and their salary is $30,000. All right, everybody got that? So this is the Florida House of Representatives. All right, now the state, our senators in Florida, we have 40 of them, as opposed to 100 for the United States. So there's 40 members. They must be at least 21, 2-year Florida resident. They serve a 4-year term and can only be elected twice. So 8 years they can serve, and their salary is also $30,000. So it's not a real high paying job, but it's not a job that they work 24/7 year round either. All right, and I think, let's see, when is the legislature in session? This is the next thing on your note sheet. Regular sessions of the legislature, and this is what you need to write, begin on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in March and continue for 60 consecutive days, which may be extended by a 3/5 vote of each house. So one person can say, hey, we need to stay longer. All right, they vote on it to see if they need to extend the session or not. Special sessions may be called by the governor or may be convened by joint proclamation of the President of the Senate and Speaker of the House of Representatives. Special sessions may not exceed 20 days unless extended by a 3/5 vote of each house. So mandated 60 days a year is when they're in session, right? But as you can see, many times they're called back and have to go back into session again. And this is the State House up in Tallahassee, is what the room would look like. And you can go if you're ever in Tallahassee, and they have certain times that you can go and you could see this room up here in the top. This is the viewing area. If they have things, if you have permission, a ticket to get in, you can go in and watch. But this is what the State House looks like. There it is, empty. Now, I want you to notice, remember when you did your map, okay? On your map, okay, what you did, okay, was the districts for our House of Representatives from Florida that represent us in our national government, right? We said Bill Posey represents us here in District 8, all right? This, okay, you can see there's 120 districts right here, okay? This is actually the areas that our state House of Representatives, this is where they represent when they go to Tallahassee, okay? This is completely different from our national government, all right? We have Bill Posey that represents our district, okay? We have 27 House of Representatives, and you had 27 districts on the map you drew because those represent in Washington for our national government. These districts that you're seeing right here are a Florida state government, okay? And we have 120 members, so here are the 120 county breakdowns that you see right here. And this, again, is done by population. Look how dense this is in South Florida, because the population is very heavy over here, as well as in this area too. Just like we do in our national government, there's a Speaker of the House, a Speaker pro tempore, there's a majority leader, a minority leader. Okay, so they have leaders in the House and the Senate in Florida, just like we have leaders in our national government. This is what the state Senate room looks like in Tallahassee. Another view. All right. So we have 40 senators. There's 23 Republicans and 17 Democrats right now. And this is, I think, yeah, I got a bigger one right here. This is the districts for our senators, okay, in Florida. Our Florida senators represent these districts, and we have 40. So you see down here, all right, this is the 40th. There are 40 different districts. This is currently who represents us, right, in Tallahassee, right here. Debbie Mayfield. Okay, she's the senator from our district. Anybody know who this lady is? Probably not. Maybe you do. All right. And if you're looking at your note sheet, you probably know maybe not what her name is, but at least what she does. Yes, she is the mayor. Her name is Cathy Meehan. All right, mayor of Melbourne. She's elected to a 4-year term as mayor in November of 2012, and then she was reelected in 2016. All right, so up for reelection, or the mayor will be reelected this year in 2020. Mayor Meehan is a native of Canada. She became a citizen of the United States in 1967. She's lived in Melbourne since 1979. She graduated from FIT and she earned her associate's degree here at Eastern Florida State College, which back then it was BCC. Right, so that she is the current mayor of Melbourne. Okay, so you should have finished this first sheet right here. Okay, so we're going to move on. Here we go. So we've talked about the legislative branch. We talked about their congressional information. We've talked about how a bill becomes a law. And now we're going to look at non-legislative powers. Okay, what can they do beyond making laws? It's more than just making laws for Congress, for our House and our Senate. Beyond making laws, these are the 4 things they can do, and these are the 4 things we're going to talk about. Constitutional amendments, filling vacancies. Now we're back in the United States. We're back in our national government, okay? That page you just finished was about Florida, this is the state of Florida and our local government, all right? But now we're going to look at the national government again. So we're going to look at each one of these 4 things individually. Amending the Constitution, all right? Article 5. And here we are on this page, back of the page you just finished, right? This is where you should be writing. Okay, Article 5. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the states. Okay, so this is what Article 5 says, right? So you could write that, a shortened version of it, on your sheet where it says Article 5. Now, there's 3 things that have to happen when the Constitution is amended. 1, House vote, 2/3. Okay, 2/3 of them have to vote to amend, which is 290 of them, because we have 435 congressmen. Okay, so 290. Step 2, so if it passes here in the House, all right, step 2, it goes to the Senate. 2/3 of the Senate has to say, yes, we should amend the Constitution, all right, which is 67 of them have to vote for that. So if it passes in the House, it passes in the Senate. Yep, you got it right. Now it goes to the states, all right? So here, let's say check, we had 290 or more, we had 67 or more, all right? So now it goes to the states vote. 3/4 of the states have to say, yes, we should amend the Constitution, which is 38 of our 50 states have to vote for that. So that's step 1, step 2, and step 3. And we know that we have 27 amendments to our Constitution because we've already talked about that and already learned about that. One of the, and this is just all 3 steps there. Okay, so first, second, and then the final 3rd step. It's a very difficult process. 1,100 amendments have been introduced in Congress. They have Congress approved 33, right? 6 amendments have failed to gain ratification through the state. So 2/3 of the House said yes. 2/3 of the Senate said yes. Comes to the states, and 6 of those 33, which leaves us with 27, did pass in the states, but 6 of them did not. Equal Rights Amendment. This is obviously one of our amendments that we have. When it went to the states, you can see there were some states here, and I think that's 15 of them, 13 or 15 of the states said we don't want the Constitution amended, but they did have, which we need here, they had 3/4, okay, so at least 38 of the states said yes, let's amend. So there must be 12. Let's see. let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 of them not to ratify. Okay, so that particular amendment, we know there's equal rights, okay, but it had to go back and be worded, go back through the process because 15 of them said no, and it can't be more than 12 of them to say no. So that just kind of gives you an example of how that happens. All right, so the second thing that our Congress does is fills vacancies, all right? And we have the 25th Amendment here, all right, Section 1 and Section 2. Section 1 says, in case of the removal of the president from office or his death or his resignation, all right, the vice president shall become president. That's the 25th Amendment, Section 1. Section 2 says, when there's a vacancy in the office of the vice president, the president shall nominate a vice president who shall take the office upon confirmation by a majority vote of both houses. So let's say our current vice president passes away, or he says, you know what, I'm going to resign. I'm just not going to do this anymore. All right. So Trump will appoint a new vice president. And then it goes to the House and to the Senate. And as long as there's a majority vote, just a majority, not 2/3, not 3/4, but just a majority vote, a simple majority, then that person that the president has appointed as the new vice president becomes vice president. If the vice president dies or quits, then the president can choose anyone as a replacement. However, each chamber of Congress must approve the nominee with a simple majority vote, okay, which is what this Section 2 says right here. U.S. House of Representatives. So what if one of our 435 House of Representatives resigns, passes away, something happens, and there is a vacancy? When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writ of election to fill such vacancies. What the heck does that mean? It means that the member of the House be replaced only by an election held in the congressional district of the former representative. So whatever district that representative, say Bill Posey, if something happened and he resigned or he passed away, right, we would hold a special election just in our district to replace him. Okay, senators, what will happen? Unlike vacancies in the House, okay, which must be filled by election, the U.S. Constitution states the ability to choose how to fill vacancies in the Senate. Gives states the ability to choose. However, due to the 17th Amendment, voters must eventually decide. All right? So our state government can appoint a senator, right? But the state has to ultimately vote and agree on that appointment. Okay, so now we're going beyond making laws. We've talked about constitution, how do they amend it? We've talked about how vacancies in the presidency, the vice presidency, and in our House of Representatives and senators, what happens if there's a vacancy. Now, beyond making the laws, which our Congress does, they are also in charge of impeachment, right? So we're going to look at that right now. Impeachment is an accusation of just wrongdoing. You have been accused of something. You have not been convicted. Impeachment simply means being accused. Only the House of Representatives has the power to impeach. Okay? Only the House has the right to impeach, to accuse somebody of something. So we have step 1, step 2, and step 3. Step 1, 218 House members must vote to formally charge a president. Okay? 218, which is a simple majority, right? Have to agree, you know what? We think the president has done something wrong and we want to impeach. We are formally accusing him. Okay? Then if that happens, it will go to the Senate and that's where the trial will take place. Okay? The Senate, remember, cannot impeach, can't accuse. House has to accuse. Then it goes to the Senate for trial. All right? Step 3, and this is where you're filling that in right here on your notes. Okay, step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 3, 67 senators must vote guilty. If less than 67, the president remains in office. So he's been impeached, he's been accused, Then it goes to the Senate for trial. Then they vote. And as long as you have 67 senators, which here, remember, this is not a simple majority. Simple majority would be 51 because there's 100 senators. This is 2/3 have to come back with a guilty. Okay? If that doesn't happen, the president remains in office. So the House of Representatives has the sole power to impeach. The Senate has the sole power to convict or acquit. Right? This is kind of just reiterating the points. Impeachment, a formal process in which a high official is accused of unlawful activity and which may or may not lead to the removal of that official from office. President, vice president, governors, and judges. These are the people that can be impeached. And if you notice there, who's not on there, are our representatives, our senators, and our congressmen, right? These are the only people that can be impeached. What is considered an impeachable offense? Treason, bribery, high crimes, and or misdemeanors, right? And we now know that there's a fourth person here, and I'm sure you guys all know who that is, which we're going to look at in a minute. We have Jackson, we have Clinton, we have Nixon, and of course here, who? Yeah, you're right, Trump. Full impeachment process. All right, we are right here on your notes now. 8 steps, full impeachment. A member of the House introduces an inquiry of impeachment resolution. This is number 1. All right, I'm going to go through these really quickly. You pause, you go back to it, whatever you need to do to get the notes. 2, the House Judiciary Committee investigates. Right? 3, the House Judiciary Committee votes on the resolution of impeachment, stating whether there is enough evidence for impeachment. 4, this is still part of 3 here. Okay. 4, the full House votes on the bill of impeachment. A simple majority decides whether to bring the case before the Senate. Impeached. We know there's a 4th one. Richard Nixon was not impeached. We'll see in a minute why he wasn't impeached, though. If the simple majority in the House votes yes, the president is impeached. And remember, that doesn't mean that they're taken out of office. They are simply accusing him of something. 5, the trial is conducted on the Senate floor. The Senate acts as the jury, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court presides over the trial. This is Johnson's impeachment trial, Clinton's impeachment trial. If you want to go into, you have to have a ticket. Here you can see admit the bearer of this ticket to the Senate gallery to be a part of the impeachment trial. The 6th step, the Senate publicly votes on each article of impeachment. Okay, there could be 1, there could be 2. In the most recent, in Trump's, there was 2. All right, that they brought him up on. If 2/3 majority supports the impeachment, the president is removed from office. So at least 67 of the 100 senators have to vote to remove him from office. And you can see here Clinton, and we'll come to the part where you're going to write this in your notes in a minute, but 45 guilty, 55 not guilty. Right, this is the vote that they took in the Senate. So he was acquitted. He was not guilty because they didn't have the 67 votes that they needed. Like I said, all of this that you're going to write down, you'll see on a slide in just a minute, so you don't have to write about Jackson, Clinton, and Trump yet. We'll get to that part. So step 7 and step 8 in the full impeachment process. Step 7, if the president is found not guilty, he stays in office and finishes his term. 8, if the president is found guilty, he is removed from office. So now you should have those full impeachment process, 8 steps. Richard Nixon was not impeached. Okay, is that true or is that not true? Well, they were going to bring him up on impeachment charges, but what does he do? He resigns. He urges the time of healing. Ford will take office. Okay. So Nixon resigned before he could actually be impeached. All right, so the first one that we're going to look at here is Andrew Johnson and his charges and impeachment vote. That'll come up on a future slide. But he was the first to ever be impeached. He became president after Lincoln's assassination. He was a Southerner who used to own slaves. He was sympathetic to the South. His plan for Reconstruction was against what the radical Republicans wanted. All right, so this kind of just talks about the impeachment of Andrew Johnson. He vetoed many laws passed in Congress. Congress responded by trying to take away power from him. And then there was this thing called the Tenure of Office Act. Said president needed consent of the Senate to fire federal officials. This is that taking away some of his power. Johnson fired Secretary of War Stanton without permission, and they said, "Wait a minute, we don't want the president to have that much power." So they said that he had obstructed his use of power. So this is what you're going to write down now. His charges was violation of the Tenure of Office Act, meaning he didn't get permission to fire him. The House impeachment vote was 108 to 57. Okay, so obviously they said we're going to impeach. All right, Senate trial vote 35 to 19. 36 was needed to remove him. So they were one vote shy of being able to remove him from office. So the verdict was not guilty and he remained in office. The next one on your list there is Mr. Bill Clinton, former president. Al Gore, that was his vice president at the time. There's just another picture of them. So again, House gets together and says that President Clinton, there's some things that we feel like he's done wrong and that he should be removed from office. These are some of the headlines in some of the more famous magazines. And we know that this is a Monica Lewinsky situation. So what was he charged with? Perjury and obstruction of justice. Okay. Goes to the House. They have the simple majority here. Okay. On perjury. And they also have it on obstruction. So it goes to the Senate for a vote. And on the perjury, there was a 50-50. All right. So they did not have the votes that they needed. And on obstruction of justice, the vote was 45-55. So again, they did not have the numbers that they needed, so he was found not guilty, and he also remained in office. These are just some pictures of him. His daughter Chelsea, his wife Hillary. So here we go. We have Johnson. We have Clinton. And Reagan is not, Nixon is not here because remember he resigned before they could impeach him. And now we have Trump to add to this list. So at the bottom of your paper, what were his charges? Abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Goes to the House on the abuse of power, 230 to 197. So they have the simple majority. On the obstruction of Congress, 229 to 198. So again, they have the simple majority. So it goes to the Senate for trial. And then when it comes down to the vote, 48-52, so obviously not the majority, and 47-53, again, not the majority on the obstruction charge. So he was found not guilty and he remained in office. So to this date, there's never been a president that has been impeached that has been actually removed from office. So impeachment review. It requires a simple majority vote in the House to say, yes, we think that the president's done these things wrong. Then it goes to the Senate. It requires 2/3 majorities, at least 67 of the senators to be convicted. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court presides over the Senate when a president is to be tried. Right now, our Chief Justice is John Roberts. The penalty for conviction is removal from office. The Senate may also prohibit a convicted person from ever holding public office again. Also, the person may be tried in a criminal court as well. To the average American, the word impeachment is associated with the president. Therefore, they believe only the presidents can be impeached. But the Constitution states in Article 2, Section 4, the president, vice president, and all civil officers of the United States are subject to impeachment. Under this interpretation, the only impeachable officials other than the president and vice president are our federal judges and our Supreme Court of the United States justices and the cabinet members. So we are on this back page right now, very last page. Almost done. Hang in there. Expulsion of members of Congress. Article 1, Section 5 of the United States Constitution provides that each chamber of Congress may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member. Does impeachment apply to members of Congress? No. Each chamber has the authority to expel its own members without involving the other. Okay, so the House can expel members of the House. The Senate can expel members of the Senate. Each of those don't have anything to do with each other. Does impeachment apply to judges? Article 3 of the Constitution states that judges remain in office during good behavior, implying that Congress may remove a judge for bad behavior through impeachment. All right, now we are on to the very last thing, executive powers beyond making laws. So these are other things that our Congress does besides making laws. Last one. Power over the executive. Okay, how can Congress override a presidential veto? And we talked about this in how the bill becomes a law. In the House of Representatives, 218 passes the bill. In the Senate, 60 votes pass a bill, right? But if they want to override, it takes 290 votes to override. So the president has signed a bill, but they want to veto it. So 290 to override the veto in the House and 67 to override in the Senate. This is what Trump's cabinet looks like right now. These are what they represent, which departments they represent. Again, he's meeting with his cabinet members. And the Constitution gives executive powers to the Senate. All major appointments made by the president must be confirmed by the Senate by a simple majority. So if the president is going to appoint somebody to his cabinet, okay, the Senate has to vote on it, and it can be confirmed by just a simple majority, so at least 51. Each nominee is referred to the appropriate standing committee before a full Senate vote. It's rare that an appointment is denied, although the minority party can prolong the process for a lengthy amount of time. So typically when he appoints somebody, it's usually confirmed in the Senate. Now, go back to this right here, Department of Education. Okay, so Trump needed to appoint somebody to his cabinet that heads up that committee. All right, so this lady right here, okay, and this is not on your notes. You don't have to write this. I'm just giving this as an example. DeVos, he appoints to education. There was a lot in the news about his appointment of her, saying that she really didn't have the experience that she needed to be the cabinet member, his cabinet member that was the head of education. Anyway, so this is a debate right here, okay, about it. It goes to the Senate because he appoints. It goes to the Senate for a vote. Okay, Senate to vote. All right, what happens? 51 yay, 50 nay. So by one vote, she gets that simple majority that she needed to be appointed. Article 3, the judges, both of the Supreme and Inferior Court, shall hold their offices during good behavior. Again, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to, nobody's going to mess with you. But if you think you messed up, depending on whether you're representing the House or whether you're representing the Senate, they can try to get you removed from office. So, appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States. You have two right here, Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan, 2009 and 2010. This is Obama appoints them, and this is the Senate confirmation vote, 68 to 31, 63 to 37. Then this gentleman passes away. So it leaves a vacancy. All right. So what happens? Obama, because he is technically still in office, wants to nominate somebody for the Supreme Court of the United States. Well, we were just about going to be in an election. It was an election year, 2016, and it was kind of put on hold because they wanted the new president to be able to appoint somebody to that seat, which he did right here. Okay, so Trump gets into office, and to fill this position, this is who he nominates for the Supreme Court of the United States. Okay, so in early 2017, he becomes one of our Supreme Court um, members. This is the Senate confirmation vote, 54 to 45. And then this gentleman we've talked about as well too. So another vacancy on the Supreme Court, and Trump nominates this guy. This lady comes forward, says that when we were in college, there was some sexual misconduct, and it kind of um, goes to a vote, and the Senate confirmation vote, 50-48, and then one no vote. So he is confirmed as a Supreme Court of the United States. Okay, one minute. All right. So we have now talked about the 4 non-legislative powers of Congress. All right, and if you need to go back to these, you can do that. Thurgood Marshall and Sandra Day O'Connor, you can just cross those off for now. We're not going to go over that now. We'll go over that later when we get to our judicial branch of our government. So just cross those 2 off at the bottom. All right. Okay, so you should have all these notes now. Your whole packet should be finished. I will be posting later in the week a 10-question quiz for you to take and submit. So you will get a grade on submitting that these notes have been done, and you will get a grade on the quiz for this upcoming week. All right? Okay, I'm going to sign off now. Good to see you. Stay safe, and I will see you again later. Bye-bye.